So I heard you guys played basketball this weekend.
Yes, we did.
And I wasn't invited.
Oh, come on.
Come on, you were busy. We knew what you were doing.
I didn't do anything this weekend.
Dude, I want to talk about BSB, baby shower babble. Break it down for me.
I had a baby shower. They played basketball. End of story.
That's all you need to know.
Stop asking about it.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, we have personal lives.
Yeah, you got to. We're not the business personal work-life integration.
No.
We're work-life separation.
Yes. It's like the show that we all watched, right?
Undercover Boss, yeah.
No, silly. The Apple TV show. What's it called?
Severance.
Now that is work-life separation.
Now that's TV.
I think you would call that science fiction. Right?
That was one of my favorite shows.
Never going to happen.
I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was good.
You think it'll never happen?
I don't know.
Dude.
I kid. With Neuralink, anything is possible. You guys know about Neuralink?
Nope.
We know nothing.
All right. You ready for this?
Don't speak for me.
Dude, we're the same person.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We'll never be the
You
same
and me?
person.
We're the
Check this out.
same guy.
This is all you need to know.
Monkey mind pop.
This is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learnt to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. We can interact with the Neuralinks simply by pairing them to an iPhone, just as you might pair your phone to a Bluetooth speaker. The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Pager's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region modulate their activity with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right.
For our listeners, we're watching a
By
monkey
recording from many neurons and
play
feeding their
like a
activity
video game
into
while drinking a
decoder
smoothie
algorithm,
out of a straw.
we are able to predict
A metal
Pager's
straw.
intended
Every
hand
time
movements in
the
real
monkey
time.
hits the orange thing,
First,
it like
we
sends more
calibrate
banana
the
smoothie
decoder
through. Is
by
that the
recording
idea?
neural
Yes.
activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen.
I'm dead.
As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity.
With his mind. He is moving that cursor
Our goal
with his mind.
is to enable a person with paralysis to use a computer or phone with their brain activity alone. Because they wouldn't be able to move a joystick, they would calibrate the decoder by imagining hand
He's moving
movements
it
to
with his
targets.
joystick, though.
No, the
One of the
joystick is
things the
unplugged.
Neuralinks
He's
allow
doing that out of
Pager to
habit.
do
Here he is
to
playing
play
Pong
his favorite
with his
video
mind.
game, Pong.
Oh.
To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down.
Oh
We've
my
removed the
gosh.
joystick altogether. Now that he's
I
up to
gotta go.
speed, let's increase
All
the
right, so
difficulty and see
the point
how
of this is that they want to install chips in your brain.
Wake up! Who's they? Just
They.
The they.
That
Him.
guy, the guy talking.
The monkey.
We need to
Pager.
put this guy in jail.
Lock him up.
So it's Mr. Elon Musk is the.
Monsieur.
I don't know if that was actually Neuralink, but that was the premise behind it. Is you install a chip in your head. Really, the first use case is for people who are paralyzed. They install it and it can relink the neurons in your spine through technology, and then you'd be able to walk again.
Wow.
The other use case would be that we could talk telepathically.
We already do that, though.
And the other use case would be that you would have an infinite amount of knowledge and you would be a cyborg.
Which one would you want to be of those three?
I mean, I guess the only use case I would want is if I was paralyzed to be able to walk again, but I don't want the other things. It's too scary.
The telepathic stuff's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And the infinite knowledge stuff. Woo! I'm shook, dude.
Wow.
Welcome to the
chills.
Coffee Sometimes podcast.
Yeah, for real.
Sometimes.
Emphasis
That was
on
the
the
sometimes
sometimes.
bit.
This was the sometimes bit. Last thing I want to say on that is, do you think people call Elon Musk Elon Musk ever because of how his name's spelled?
Like as an insult
I don't
or as an accident.
Like whenever he's being a little, like, pissy around the office, or like, there's Ellen again.
Which is apparently all the time what they say.
He's not a super like jovial dude.
Not from what I hear.
Oh, Ellen.
Ellen's back.
And Ellen's back. Anyways, let's get into it, guys.
Let's just cut up, you know?
Yeah. Woo.
We thought it'd be fun to talk some coffee, right, boys?
I love talking coffee.
Talk a little coffee shop.
Coffee shop.
Talking shop.
Keys to the shop.
Yeah. In what terms, boys? What are we talking?
We wanted to talk to an expert. Right?
Yes.
Who's the expert?
Who okay, first of all, comment, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this podcast so far.
If you want to see more Pager,
Then smash like and comment who you think the coffee expert is right now. You're not doing it. Yeah, scroll down.
that's too easy.
Let's all be like Colson. Okay. Comment.
I'm thinking Ross.
Ross, you're the expert, man.
Oh,
what?
stop.
Oh,
Whenever
wise
people
one.
come to you,
Yes.
as they do
Yep.
in droves,
Yeah.
and say, I'm having trouble with this, or what do I need to do about this?
Yeah.
Or
What-
I want to do this. How do I do it?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so glad you added that.
What are
Yeah.
the most common instances or questions that people might have had?
Yeah. Well, to answer that question very, very plainly and just without, zooming out at all, it's like, hey, how you guys pulling free throw these days? And what I mean by that is when a wholesale partner has our flagship blend free throw on espresso, there's a certain recipe that we use to get the intended outcome. So I'm like, okay, we pull it at 18 grams in, more or less, 45 to 50 grams out, more or less, and usually around like 25, 26 seconds, more or less.
Is it always, genuine question, is it always the same answer, or do you change it as we change components?
It's more or less the same answer, but I keep a pulse on how the coffee's been pulling at the cafe a lot. And so sometimes like we've ventured into the 17.5 dose. Sometimes there was one time where we were doing 19. Remember that? I think that was like when Elijah came on. He sort of redid our recipe. Sometimes we've ventured more into like 30-second range, so a longer extraction. Sometimes it's been in the 22, 23-second range. It's tasting really great. So I had a wholesale partner ask me that question, and his shop is across the country. And so I have no idea what his water is like in that location. So, of course, I'm not going to, when he asked me that question, I'm not just going to be like, well, it depends on your water. But it does to
Do you
some
see
extent.
a world where you would ever be like, hey, I'm going to send you a water test kit. Tell me the results.
Man, if I was able to like manipulate and understand those variables, that would be sick.
You could.
Like if this mineral is more
less.
present.
Or like your pH is this, so it's going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you give it to Sam, and Sam would do it for
Right.
you.
Yes. I would say, Sam, figure this out, please. But yeah, that is probably my most asked question. we get a lot of folk talking to us about opening new coffee shops. And one of the biggest trends right now, and I think it's really for the better, is that people are opening coffee shops in the suburbs. And we know a thing or two about that. We've only done it once. We're trying to do it for the second time in Dunwoody.
A thing or two.
Right. A thing and almost two. 1.5 things. Because, they're the specialty coffee wave, the third wave, as it has passed through America, it has gone to the early adopters first, as the law of diffusion of innovation suggests from Simon Sinek. But
Very good.
you've got your bell curve, right? Of anytime an idea or a trend or a meme or a new product or whatever passes through society. You know what? Can you pull up the law of diffusion of innovation?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you. Point is, whenever specialty coffee, the third wave, passed through America, it hit all of the major cities first.
Is that the one you want?
Yeah. If you'll see, you've got a bell curve, and this is speaking to, let's just say, with third wave coffee. This graph is about third wave coffee now. It starts with the innovators. So I'm sure, listeners like you, like Riley, you're this person for me. I don't know if you're an innovator or an early adopter. You're probably kind of in the middle. But you,
I would say I would personally say I ride the line of early adopter and early majority. I feel like to be an innovator, you have to be rich. You ever feel that?
I get that.
Because technology is so expensive.
Yeah.
Speaking in terms of technology, and then like coffee related technology or anything, it's so expensive when it first comes out.
Yeah.
And then it becomes it's made affordable. And
Right.
then that's why the late majority and the laggards can get into it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think about like the rise of cryptocurrency in the world. It's like
That wasn't necessarily expensive.
and it wasn't expensive, but you did have to be smart or just in the right place at the right time to or just like silly enough to buy Dogecoin or whatever.
And then now all the late majority are broke because crypto just crashed. Am I right?
That's sometimes and coffee sometimes. But I think of like the innovators. They're not even like our old boss was really early into crypto before we started Valor. I wouldn't even call him an innovator. I would call him an early adopter because he like adopted it early. An innovator is maybe someone who like makes the thing and is like pushing it forward and introducing it to the early adopters. So anyways, point of what we're saying here is coffee has swept through America. Innovators, started pulling espresso a certain way, like pouring latte art, putting cactuses in their coffee shops, stuff like that. And then you had early adopters, which is in cities like Portland or Seattle or New York City, or in our case, Atlanta. And then you have the early majority that adopt a new trend, such as third wave coffee. And I would say that's like we're in the early majority phase in Alpharetta. Like we opened this cafe, and the thing in the back of our heads was like, are people in this town going to understand what specialty coffee is all about? Or is it going to like not go over their head in like their less than way, but just like they haven't adapted to the trend yet.
And they're uninterested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the practical rollout of that is like they drink dark coffee, or the only coffee they know is Folgers and Starbucks at the most. And so a lot of people are starting to open cafes in suburbs, specifically third wave coffee in suburbs, because it works. Especially it works when you're nice.
Well, yeah, when you were talking about that, of introducing a new product to match it with an empathetic service model is a highway to success.
Right. Yeah, like the only way we were able to introduce coffee to our suburb town of Alpharetta is like our highest value was not educating people. Our highest value was like meeting people where they're at and giving something they love. That is like, an elevated, even if they get a caramel macchiato every day at Starbucks, we're going to give them an iced caramel cardamom latte with, our great espresso, our local milk, our house-made syrups, our caramel that has like a little bit of unique thing to it being cardamom, in a compostable cup with an agave straw with a smile and a connection. And then the next time they come in, we're going to remember something about them. Like that's the way that we're trying to present specialty coffee to a suburb. And so there's a lot of questions about that. Like, and that's something that we do in wholesale is whenever we get involved with a wholesale partner that hasn't opened yet, we're able to, we start by like signing a contract with them saying like they're going to use our coffee, because we can tend to like put in a good bit of work with someone like ours, that we have yet to see money from. So we'll usually sign a contract and be like, hey, when you open, you're going to use our coffee. And no one's ever abused that. But there's things we can do to help people before they open. And I'd say it's probably like, we'll say a top 3 in no particular order. And maybe these aren't even top 3, but just 3 that come to mind.
The big 3.
Yeah, the big 3.
Like us.
We're the big
We're
3.
big 3. That's great.
A lot of people, when they're starting a coffee shop, they want to know how many people should be on my team.
Staffing.
You guys remember wrestling with this
Yeah.
early on?
There's just so much philosophy, like scheduling philosophy that you
Yeah.
can have. And we have gone through phases of that. And it's just different for everyone.
Yeah.
Because is the owner going to work behind the bar all the time?
Right.
Or do you want a bunch of full-timers? Do you want a ton of part-time seasonal employees? There's a million different ways you can chop it up. What's your normal path of advice for that, if you have one?
Yeah. Well, I'm such a why guy. Like,
Wow.
I try to, when I hear a question like that, or the 3 of us are working through something like that, we always have to zoom out and be like, okay, why are we talking about this? What do we want out of our company at large? So you mentioned the different scheduling philosophies, and you said, is the owner working on a bar all the time or not? Is, like what? And so the way you answer that question is like, well, what do we want out of our company? And we've talked about this ad nauseum, like the last 6 months of like, we are a company with 3 full-time owners, trying to raise kids and like have, mortgages and all that sort of thing. And
Work-life separation.
Yes, like severance stuff. But so because of that, our vision for our company has to match that. The pace at which our company grows has to create a future where that's possible for us to have a livable salary. And then also, have the infrastructure underneath us, or in our case, above us, infrastructure around us to run these cafes in a way that feels magical. Like each cafe feels like it's special and it's, a great experience. And so, it depends on what you want for your company is how I start answering that question. Do you just want to have one location and you're just going to work that location and you're going to crush it? And then I would say, yeah, the owner can sort of be the key leader. And is there, for the owner, are they like looking to start a coffee shop and sell it one day for like, $1 million or less than that,
50.
After a while, after 10 years, are they looking to sell it, And so can't go too hard on those sort of questions from the beginning, because people are like, I don't freaking know. Like, I'm just trying to take the next step. And so it's always a balance for me between how much can we zoom out here? What are the things that we're more or less sure of? And how does that affect the decision versus like the most important thing you can do is to take the next step and to not be paralyzed and be overwhelmed. And so, that's kind of how I start to answer it. But like, why don't we talk about just like a few different philosophies to filling out your schedule? Ethan, you've done the schedule ever since we've opened. And you've been the most hands-on with that, dealt with the highs and lows of different structures of teams, and maybe just say, how has it worked for us?
Sure. As far as the schedule goes, it depends on what your hours are. I guess you can come at it from a few different angles, but getting all your like constant variables or constants and variables on the table and figure out like what's your priorities is huge. But that aside, what we go for is like a set schedule where instead of like we have a bunch of people that want to work at Valor, we have all their availability, and then every 2 weeks I plug in and just like go through and like make a schedule. We have more of like a template that we operate from. People put in their time off requests ahead of time. And so it's about to be July. In the middle of July, I'll be putting out August, the whole month of August schedule. So people have until 2 weeks before the new month starts is when they would put in their time off requests.
Yeah.
And then I'll see all that and I'll plug in everybody and plug in all the covers accordingly. So that's how just overall the schedule works. For us, we have 5 people at work every day, 2 openers, 2 closers, and a mid. And I was just going to say based on a coffee shop. Based on what you offer, based on how long you're open, that's all going to be super different. A huge line in the sand that we drew that we've talked about before is that no man or woman shall work alone. So we always have 2 people, 2 openers, 2 closers. You could probably save a little bit of money if you had 1 person, but since we put such a high stance on culture, we've worked alone a lot in our years, and that was just something that we knew that you can't really carry a strong culture by yourself. It's a communal thing. So there's that, and then as far as employment, when we first were opening the cafe, we're like, we want people who want to be here for a long time. Most people probably want that right out of the gate, but we really wanted like career oriented, like, hey, you're not planning on leaving in 6 months. Like, this could be something that you want to stick with for a while. And so we hired 2 very full-time fellas, and then we were able to pick up a part-time mom right out of the gate as well, who was living in the area and committed. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, I know I worked full-time on bar for years, but do you remember how hot you started?
I think I started at like 4 days a week.
3?
3 for me when the cafe opened.
5, 4, 3.
And so that's already some vision because I'm in the cafe. They're like, I'm just going to be here because this is like the only thing I'm worrying about is the cafe. So I'm going to work it and try to set the culture and set the atmosphere. And Ross was definitely like next in line for that, where he was helping with this project, but already had his eyes turned towards other things because we were roasting by that time. And so wanted to start moving into like the partnerships realm and helping Riley with roasting, I think was another big thing. And then Riley was kind of almost single manning, but Ross was helping him while helping me doing all the roasting. And then
I mean, really, that was largely it it was just like 2 days a week we were roasting, right?
Yeah, and the other days we just worked on bar.
Yeah, roasting and working on bar, and then somehow you would
Bookkeep or something.
But so with that vision for us in mind already, which was great to have of like who's staying, who's trying to move on to something else, we kind of lined that up. And one thing we found is after that, we were hiring people and putting them at their max capacity every time on the schedule. Like if someone left or we were getting busier, we were like, okay, we need someone to work 4 shifts. We would hire someone who could work 4 shifts and like had things that they couldn't do the other 3 days, for example. Or we would hire a full-timer, and we would very rarely schedule people more than 5 days, even though it's very common in the food service coffee world. That was just another kind of line in the sand that we were trying to do to maintain, what's that called? And get
Sustainability.
Team care.
I mean, and to be clear, a lot of people want that. They want all those hours and the money from it. But we just don't. That's not the Valor vibe.
Yeah, not the Valor vibe. And so that model of like plugging in exactly what you need is great when everything's going perfect. But anytime someone wants to take a vacation, someone is sick, someone slept through, someone had to go out of town unexpectedly, there's like no catch-all, no cover besides us 3. And as we were talking about, like we were already putting ourselves at kind of our max capacity. And so for years, and even sometimes now, I would be the one to stretch and do more like 6-7 days on bar. And so that's a challenge, but something that we found recently is trying to find some people that we can plug into the schedule with some margin in their lives for like, hey, I can be on the schedule, like hardcore set schedule 3 days a week, but I can pick up stuff when need be.
Yep.
And I think having a few of those people are highly, highly valued. I don't think we thought about that or considered that too often because of the thing I said earlier about like we were looking for really high commit people. Because sometimes the people that are a little more like floaty with the availability and schedule are just in town for 6 months before they go do something else.
Yep.
Or they're like thinking about moving somewhere else. So you don't have them for such a long time, but they really do help with the schedule and alleviate stress because nobody wants to be the one to like put a burden on the team. But when we're talking about sustainability and guest care or team care, like you want your team to go on a vacation. You want your team to like wake up and not feel well and be like, I probably shouldn't go into work today. Instead of being like me on the phone with them, like, are you sure you're sick? Like,
yeah.
Are you looking at the thermometer right? Not that I don't think I did anything like that. But yeah, that's a little bit of schedule philosophy. Another thing, we chose our hours intentionally to 7 to 5, just because people can work in like 6 or 8 hour chunks without like having to get a whole new lineup of people to work the evening as well. Some people think that they're going to make more money if they stay open longer, and maybe that's true, but your costs do go up if you have to like have 7 different people come in and work at your coffee shop.
Yeah.
Or in a really unhealthy state, like you're just like, oh, I'm just going to have one person open and close it. Like I'm going to work 7 to 7 today. And we've done that before on the cart, and that was Les Miserables. You know what I mean? Miserable.
And as the owner, it was miserable.
Yeah.
Like an owner is going to be way more willing to sacrifice something like that for the most part. But if you're an employee and doing that enough, it can wear on you.
Yeah. So in short, for us, we have 3 owners, but the one who was going to be in charge of the cafe worked a lot when it started because we knew that was a good thing and that was where I was supposed to be. But we intended for Ross and Riley to move off the bar, so we didn't load them up with shifts to start. So I think an owner can find themselves on that spectrum of us three. Like we're almost like three different philosophies
Yeah.
in one. So if it's like you're starting a coffee shop and maybe you want it to be a self-sustaining thing, you're just going to have to pay someone more money to like run it for you. But I would recommend any owner who wants to be like remotely involved should be working on bar for the first few months in a pretty hands-on in way.
Well, we're even going to do that with like Dunwoody, you know?
Yeah.
And our cart that we're building out. Like it's going to be owners to start because we need to, you know, set the pace and get in there. I'm not saying there's other people who can't diagnose issues and whatnot, but it's
almost for their benefit that we're doing it first.
For sure. Like we are able to step in and kind of from our stance of just honestly industry experience, take a look at the systems and whatnot and see where things can improve, see where things are good, and kind of make pivots before we really hand it off. And that was the entire point of growing slow at 44 Milton.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I remember like getting revelation on early on in 44 Milton was how as we were trying to hire people and we were sourcing, you know, all these different applications and resumes and cover letters, all that, I'm like, the question I kept asking is like, what stage of life are these people in? Where do they live? And like, there's not like a super pretty way to say this, but like, do they need this job?
Totally.
Like, is this the kind of job where they are paying their bills with this job? Or do they live with their parents? Do they have a spouse that brings in enough money to where they don't have to, you know, grind every week?
Mm-hmm.
Or does their paycheck need to be like the same are they living paycheck to paycheck is pretty much what it is. Like, or, you know, they're putting away savings. That's not the best way to say it. But anyways, because we were in Alpharetta, there's not there's usually more or less a certain demographic and stage of life kind of person that works in a coffee shop. They're usually younger. They might be in college. They might just, you know, be trying to figure out what's next for them.
Mm-hmm.
A minority of them want a career in the coffee industry, at least for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at that type of person and being like, okay, where do we usually find that person? There weren't a lot of those people in Alpharetta.
No.
Because there's not a college. There's not like a big college. We're not a college town in Alpharetta. We're in a very affluent area, so it's pretty hard for, you know, a 23-year-old dude who's just, you know, trying to make it in the coffee industry. He's not just going to move to Alpharetta and be able to pay for his, you know, $2,400 a month rent at his townhome. It's like that doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So you either need like 3 roommates or you need a leadership position in the cafe with a salary.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of hard to find the right people because we didn't just have like a college campus nearby or a great like talent pool. So it kind of, a lot of it just came from like personal connections.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know like the first three people we hired, one of them, I just know, you know, I've known him for years and years. The other one, he was a server at a restaurant that we frequented at the time. Mm-hmm. And the other one just came into the cafe and she had no intention of working for us, but we just
came into the cart.
Yeah, into the cart. Yeah, she would, you know, come and work on her other job at the cart, and we just hit it off. And we're like, would you ever think about working here? And you know, it's like that kind of conversation. So we've had to get creative with how we reach out to people and how we source people for for candidates, not even to hire, but just to interview. Because we've tried the good old, like, yeah, let's fire up another Instagram post, we're hiring, and that does work. And we'll never stop doing that. Like, that is probably the main way, that and putting a poster up in the cafe. But anyways, we were talking about cafes opening in suburbs, but that's a huge question. How many people do I need to hire? I really, really want the team to be great. Like, I really care about people. I don't want to be like one of those coffee shops that doesn't care about their people. All that desire is there, but we're kind of able to help them put some bones around their vision, and like, not that we're like commandeering and like telling them what to do, but we're just sharing our experience. That's a really fun thing.
Yeah, the one caveat I was going to offer to the whole, like, I was over the cafe, so I was going to work 5 days. It makes it a little hard for wiggle room as far as cafe operations and training, because training was and is pretty exhausting when you're also having to perform the task. But if you're able to have a full staff running and you have you and the trainee on, it is a lot better for all parties. So if you're able to cut yourself any margin, I probably wouldn't recommend, like, if you're opening a cafe, be like, all right, well, I'm going to work every day until I need to hire someone.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've reached the point in our hiring where we've overhired yet. Like, anytime I think that we
always think that we do,
Yeah, I think we're going to get close to the line. And we do, like, this summer, like, if nobody's out of town, which is like 2 weeks of the summer, like, some people don't have all the shifts they were wanting. But, I mean, pretty much every week someone's doing something, which is awesome that there can be, because there's nothing quite like just always being able to say yes to someone needing or wanting to take a trip. Mm-hmm. I've only had to say no a handful of times, and it's stinky doo-doo. And that's another reason why giving yourself margin as the owner is great, because if I'm working 5 shifts, if I just like help someone out by covering once, I'm already kind of like going overtime.
Right.
So if you're able to cut yourself any margin, I would recommend that.
One other angle to this too is, two thoughts. One is, if you're starting a cafe and you're thinking like, man, I have to work every day because I can't afford to pay someone. I mean, there are times where, let's say you're in an area where there's not a lot of foot traffic, you're a destination spot, it's going to take you a while to attract people and get some income going. I mean, I can see a season meaning it has a start and an end, hopefully a defined end, like a goal. Like, once we start bringing in $1,000 a day, like, it's time to bring in 2 employees. That way I can have 1 day off, and, just whatever the thing is. But I know that there's no way we can not say that, because we did that, like, for a while.
Yeah. Oh, our season was the cart.
Yeah.
We had 1 year and 8 months of something more or less like that. And we were really pushing the envelope in that, as far as like overwork.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, money, like, we were making plenty to staff. I was thinking, when we were talking about this topic, there's like low risk, high risk, or kind of like low investment, high investment. My recommendation would just be to have like a little bit, to push yourself to be a little bit more invested and a little more higher risk on staffing when opening a coffee shop. That'd be like my end-all statement about it, because you want to just shoot a little higher, because getting under your margin, it's just hard to get back up to the surface, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and you guys balk back at this, but I feel like you kind of get the atmosphere or like the clientele that you prepare for. Like, if you're just this like, oh, I got to go skinny, I got a solo bar every day until I hit this number, you're not going to be able to make that many drinks. Like your production ceiling's lower. Your wait times are going to be way longer.
Set that precedent right from the beginning.
Yeah, because if you get a big rush on day 2 of being open, how many of those people are not coming back because it was a really crappy experience because you weren't able to like give them the service that they need because you're swamped making drinks and taking orders.
That was my worst nightmare when we first opened.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, it still is in the sense whenever I go in and there's a line out the door, I just worry about someone who it's like their first experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you can only do so much, and great places often have lines out the door.
Totally.
But yeah, I totally feel that. Setting that precedent from the beginning, and if the culture and the idea of your company from the get is, oh, they're so slow, I can't go there, then you got a world of trouble ahead of you.
Yeah. The fear of telling someone that like you have to take back their shifts or that you are constantly sending someone home is very real. And you want to make a smart decision as far as your area, your cafe, your hours, who you think will be coming in, and maybe doing a season of soft launches just to see. But end all, I would say err on more staff and less you working behind the bar, but you just being able to be a figure, more or less.
And we've always been really big on the bookkeeping side of it and like the percentages of a viable cafe. Like I'm thinking of a spreadsheet that you cooked up, Big T. It's called a cafe viability spreadsheet, isn't it? And
Guilty.
It's just that. It tells you, is your cafe viable? Is it viable?
Palpable.
We need a cafe vibeable spreadsheet. And it's just like, what kind of music should you play?
Yes. It's
Like
Tame Impala.
There's an algorithm. Yeah. It's
Frank
like
Ocean.
Mad Libs. But anyways, I don't know if this is universal, but we've always shot for like, let's have labor, like 30, 33%.
We've never met it.
We've
Just
never
full
done it.
transparency. Yeah.
We're
mean,
Always above. Yeah.
Always above it.
because we're growing, guys.
Well, we're growing, and talking about all this, it's so justifiable that people are so reluctant with labor, because you look at those numbers and it's your biggest cost, like flat out. Even if you remove owners out of the equation, the number gets really scary, like how much comes out in payroll every pay period. But it's also like your people, and we talk about this constantly. The thing that makes Valor is our people. And the hardest part about Valor and the most fulfilling part about Valor is the people. So it's,
That'll preach.
you have something pulling on you from one side, but you have something so much more, which is the fulfilling side, pulling on you from the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's worth the investment.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, think about it. You've got, let's say we're at, I don't know what percentage we're at. Let's say we're at 40. Is that crazy?
I mean,
We
it just shows how terrible I am at my job that I don't know off the top of my head.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, wait, I'll edit that part out. Yeah. Yep. I think 39 and a half.
39.78.
Yeah.
Whoa.
anyways, I mean, you figure it out. You calculate all of that sometimes. Like, it's not like...
And I mean, it's different month to month.
Yeah. There's not a ton of upside to figuring it out at all moments.
I mean, for one, I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people pay a bookkeeper, which I'm sure we'll eventually do. And
Right.
I'll probably get those reports.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Anyways, so where was I going with that?
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
No, it's cool.
Were you talking about getting labor down?
Oh no, I was just saying
We think about it in terms of percentages.
Yeah.
What your thought was.
you've got let's for round numbers. Let's say you bring in 2,000 on a Wednesday, and 40% of that went to labor costs, and then you've got 60% of 2,000 to play with after labor. You've got your cost of goods, which we also the old classic, right, is like we want a third to be labor, we want a third to be cost of goods. Now, if you hit those, that's a different story. And then you want your overhead and your rent, specifically your rent, to be in the like 6% range. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, the easy way to look at it is third cost of goods, third labor, and then the remaining 33%, half of it should be operating costs and marketing, so rent, etc. And then the other
AC units.
the other half should be
Net profit.
profit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people say 15% profit, so that would leave what 15% and 20. No, sorry, 15 and 15% to
18.
profit and 18%
Yeah.
to the other stuff. But anyways,
Right. So, I mean, we're talking about the question of like, how do I know how many people to hire? How many hours do I give them? There's some rough percentages for you. Like, let's try to hit those. If you're hitting those percentages, like, it's always a balance between when you're asking the question, how many people do I hire? How much do I pay them? And how much do I work them? It's like you're looking at the numbers and figuring out, okay, what percentage of my gross revenue is my labor cost? Hopefully around 33, maybe 40 if you're feeling saucy. And then the other side of it is like, is all of the stuff getting done by those people, right? Like, and if it's not, then you have a problem. If you have a high labor cost and your experience is not good, or you're just too busy. Like, I mean, that kind of sounds a little familiar at times where we've had a high labor cost and we're too busy. Like, we don't have enough people to handle the volume. It's like, okay, then you have a broken system. Mm-hmm. And then your job becomes, let's fix the system so it's more efficient. You're doing more with less. And that has been probably the biggest source. If we were to have a pie chart of the things the three of us have talked about the cafe, that's a huge part of it, is like, how can we make the system more efficient to where we can put out more with less? That's always the question. And so then you're getting into investments with equipment. You're getting into some sort of incalculable like sort of labor cost by you spending time thinking about systems. These are things I think about. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, like we spend our whole owners meeting talking about how do we make the cafe better? How do we make the system better? How do we make our ticket times go down? Mm-hmm. How do we do that? You know, and we could have been spending that time talking about marketing for the roastery. It's like you do make these choices by your priorities, and that's why it's so important in your leadership team to have those aligned priorities, because you'll budget your time and energy and money according to those priorities.
Dude, a parallel to that is the whole idea that 20% of a lot is a lot better than 100% of a little. So when, for example, if you have your cafe and you're trying to hit this certain, you know, say you're trying to hit 33%, but if you stretch to 40%, you would be able to hire a roaster and start roasting coffee.
Right. Yeah.
So you're hitting that 40% mark. First of all, you're going to make more money, and then it's going to hopefully shrink back down to 33%.
Yeah.
But even if it didn't, you're bringing in so much more. Or say, okay, you were at 33%, you hired a roaster. If you hired a roaster and you weren't bringing in roasting income, that would have taken you to 50% labor. But then you start roasting it brings you down to 40%.
Yeah.
But you're bringing in a lot more money, so your net profit is smaller, but it's of a bigger chunk of money. So either you're netting out to the same profit, or you're even bringing in a little bit more. But you're able to hire someone, give them a job, have more people within your company. It just makes everything so much better.
Right. Higher ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's always been, again, the benefit of having business partners. It's not for everyone, but for us, there's been a balance between, you've always been more like, we've changed over the years, but earlier on, you were always more like skinny, sweated out. Mm-hmm. Let's just keep costs low and do this thing. There's so many great things about that. You've been more like, let's I remember we used to call it like the cart before the horse season, where
Still in it.
we're still in it.
Welcome.
The season where you just transparently, I mean, you invest thousands into a podcast studio before you've yet to see a dollar from it.
Yeah.
And like
A tangible dollar.
a tangible dollar, we're getting income. We're not getting any income from this podcast, like from Apple Podcasts or like
Yet.
we don't have a
Sponsor
yet. But there's an intangible benefit to the company. And so that's been more of your philosophy. And then I just help you guys argue. I don't know.
I'm like, let's just get an iPhone. We all have iPhones.
Have you ever heard of a voice memo? Like, just put it on this freaking table. But you guys have pushed and pulled, in those different directions, and the diamond is refined under the pressure of that,
And it's fine. I mean, I don't get invited to play basketball anymore. But
Yeah.
It's after that podcast's done.
I think the funniest story that around that for me was when we were on the foldable table with our espresso machine stuff, and you guys, you were like, we gotta build a cart. It's gonna cost like $1,000, and I was like, no, this table works great. Like, what are you talking about?
Hey, look at this thing.
Yeah, it was like table, but then it's because we also needed a trailer. I was like, that's too much. It's too much. We can't do that. But the reality was we would never be able to scale to what we were able to do with that. And then once we got it and started doing events, I was like, oh, yeah, this is way better.
Yeah. It had to go into debt to do it.
Yeah.
Like maybe the hyper conservative
The
way.
Dave Ramsey in me was like,
Yeah. Let's wait.
what's in the
until-
envelope? What do you got in the envelope?
Pay everything with cash and
There's nothing in the envelope.
It just says, give us more money.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you're more like do more with less until you have cash, and then you've always been like low interest debt in order to like raise our ceiling so that we can pay off the debt. Before
You
the
need
interest
both.
can- yeah,
You definitely need both. Because if it was just me, I would have tanked the company in debt at this point.
Can I get that on recording? Oh wait,
Well, I'm gonna edit that part out.
I'm gonna replay that
But edit
over and over.
that in.
Yeah. We struck gold. This was good.
Yeah,
I
We're
mean,
really good at this.
We had two more, right?
What do we
Do
run
we
at?
do we want to save one of those for next week? Really do a little break,
A little
breakout,
series?
a little series.
Sure, sounds great.
A campaign.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
campaigning on coffee shop questions.
Love it.
This has been fun.
CSQs.
Let's give some shout outs. You guys got any shout outs for anyone?
I got one. I want to shout out my good friend and cohort, Sam Smith. Today we are celebrating his year anniversary with the company. And after the program, we're going to be getting into the Tesla.
Why you got to snipe me like that, dude?
They didn't know that you owned it. I just said get into the Tesla, but you said that.
A Tesla.
We're going to get into a Tesla. Sam wanted to rent a Tesla for the day, and that's
Yep.
sort of
That was his gift.
His
That was
gift.
it.
We're just going to ride around the mountains.
And hey, quick plug for that. If you are listening to this and you own something, treat your people that stick around and treat everybody, but honor the moments, honor the anniversaries, honor the birthdays.
Yeah.
These people are precious and they are the backbone of your company. So go buy them a burger or something, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, talk about like just to put it in old man business terms, like we're going to spend money today on Sam, and that money is going to go in some sort of categorization that you have on your QuickBooks. I don't know
Personnel expense.
personnel expense.
I thought he was just going to pay us back.
Yeah, we're going to make Sam pay for everything.
We'll do separate checks.
separate checks.
No, it's like a you got this one, I
Yeah.
got this one
Yeah.
kind of deal.
Done.
Right.
So you got this one.
Yeah, I'll take bowling. Anyways, so
That's
huge
just-
shout out to Sam, who's been with us for a year. Such a bright guy. Like
Yeah.
it's so simple. It's so like menial, but I love being able to look at him and be like, what's 33 times 129? And he'll be like, answer. No, he's like, well, what's half of 33? And he like kind of does it that way. But
He's like a Common Core kind of guy.
yeah. I barely get that, but I kind of do.
Yeah.
So I just love him. He's a brother.
He's awesome.
And I'm excited to celebrate him today and just spend time together.
Thank you for making our company better, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
How about you, Ethan?
Quickly, I'll say that someone told me who listens to most of the podcast that their episode with Sam was their favorite one.
Wow.
They said, I
Wow.
really appreciated diving in on coffee.
I love it.
And I was like, well, did you listen to the one where me and Riley talked about coffee? They're like, shut up. More Sam, less you guys. I'm just kidding. Dude, I got to shout out my dad.
Oh,
I always talk about Colson. My dad was like, dude, I listen to your podcast too.
oh my
I
gosh!
was like,
Awesome.
sorry, Randy.
Sorry for putting you in the doghouse,
Yeah.
Randy.
Wow.
Dad, love you. Thanks for listening. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the comments section on the YouTube page.
Oh, I sorry. I have one more shout out. Just on the subject of employees, non-owners in our media. Ariel
Oh, yeah.
doing that video
That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
of the Honduran, the
Oh,
natural Honduran. It's so cool. I was on vacation.
Did you cry?
No.
What?
I was
I
on
cried.
vacation like I do, being an owner and all, right, boys?
Oh yeah.
PTO.
Mai Tai.
And I just see, on like Rachel's Instagram feed, like Ariel doing a pour over. And I was like, man, I'm so proud. Like I would so much, it's great that like us as owners get to do this, but people ask me like when I work on bar, what's your favorite thing about working at Valor? And I always, or like owning Valor. And I always tell them that it's when our employees do something like probably better than we would have done it. Like every time I work on bar, I feel like I'm out of my league. Like I'm like, you guys have taken this thing so much farther than I left it.
Wow.
And just like watching her crush it on that video, it's like that's my favorite thing about Valor.
I'm going to start crying. Dude, we got to stop. I'm dead.
Shout out Riley.
Yeah, oh yeah, the videos, man. You're the man behind the camera.
Hey.
They're looking
Yeah.
Oh, stop.
You do things with excellence, buddy.
Stop.
Okay. I'll
and
stop.
you look amazing today.
Oh, thank you so much. I only have like 2 nice shirts. I feel
And
like
your shirt
this
kind
is
of
my
matches
one.
the wall, no offense.
What? I can't
You
wear
can
the shirt
tell.
anymore.
Yeah, you can tell you chose the colors.
Well, I'm gonna do like a green screen thing where
Oh,
the wall and myself are both cheetah print.
you're in like Bali
Yeah,
or something.
and you can see through me in Bali.
Wow.
My shout out goes to you've heard us talk about him several weeks. Elias at Tetherball.
Yes.
They're up and running. They've been going at it for a while. If you are in the greater Florida area,
Yeah. Scratch Jacksonville.
Yeah.
How about the Southeast?
get in your car, get on your bike,
We'll wait. Get in.
get on your boosted board. Hello. And get over
Get on your
to
one wheel.
Jacksonville, Florida, in Mandarin. Yeah. You heard of this? I think the neighborhood, the area is called
Okay.
Mandarin.
Okay, that's awesome.
And go to Tetherball and get some Valor at Tetherball and be treated to a great time. I've just seen from Instagram that they just really do so much to make their guests feel comfortable at their place.
Aw.
Yeah.
And that's just awesome. So
Just a little excerpt from their website. Welcome to Tetherball. First of all, their branding is really, really awesome. I love their colors and their fonts and all that. A small sunlit coffee spot in Mandarin, a neighborhood of Jacksonville, Florida, USA. We do coffee to give people energy. We have fun because we care. We want to uplift people and tackle anything and everything. And when I was first talking to him, he was talking about like why the name Tetherball, which I just think is the coolest name. I was telling this yesterday to a coffee shop that's opening in Dallas, Georgia called Good Stuff. I love names that like just signify and carry what they want their brand to feel like. And like Tetherball is like, you hit the ball and it comes back to you. maybe someone else hits it, or like it's like I forget the saying that they say, but it's like hit it back or
Get
like,
up and hit it back.
Get up and hit it back.
Yeah.
It's a brand, man, and it's more than a brand to sell. It's like it's a brand that aligns with what Elias is all about.
Yeah.
So
Shout out
it's
to you,
cool.
Elias.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
One more. JP and Meadowlark.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have a space
A friend of the
in
program.
Gainesville that they're building out. Congrats, JP.
Huge.
And
JP.
Summer. And Larkin. Hello.
Yeah.
We're so excited for that.
That's gonna be
I
cool.
go to Gainesville for nothing, but I will go to Gainesville for that.
Hey, see you in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Not Florida, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gainesville, Georgia. Hall County. We're
Hall
talking
County.
Hall County.
Wow. Yeah, huge congrats, JP. Love you.
All right, boys. It's been fun.
Love
It's been a
you.
good one. Love
Love you.